Hi, everyone. Welcome to the DBSync client testimonial for the Loan Synchronizations and Trading Association. I'm Adrienne, your DBSync evangelist, and I'm going to be talking today with Donna Murray, who's going to tell us about her organization's experience using DBSync integration. Welcome, Donna, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So to get us started, Donna, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little background, when did you first start using DBSync? And what was it that brought you to DBSync in the first place? What were the challenges, issues you were facing that made you look to DBSync as a possible integration option?
So I'm not 100% sure when exactly we started, but I believe it was about a year and a half ago. It was in sync with the integration to Salesforce that we ended up using DBSync. So we had changed our CRM platform to Salesforce in around October 2018. And around that time is when we decided to go with DBSync. It had said Salesforce had notified us that they had a few apps that were available that would kind of make things a little bit easier on our end and synchronize things, a little bit less manual labor from my part. So I just, I think they gave us 2 or 3 options and we went with that.
Great. So now, what was the critical element then that made you choose DBSync as your option? In other words, what made you choose us over our fellow competitors? Because we know we've got some good ones out there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a combination of pricing and recommendation. Salesforce highly recommended. You were the #1 recommended company out of, I think, the 2 or 3 that they had given us. I don't remember the names of the other companies at this point in time, but you were highly recommended. I think the integration, they had said a big factor to me was I didn't want the integration to be painful and this huge grueling process. And so they had said that they had worked with DBSync before in the past a lot, and that seemed to be a seamless integration. So that was my deciding factor. I think cost also played into it. It was reasonably priced. Those, I would have to say, if there may be other slight factors that I'm not remembering because it was a while ago, but those were the 2 main things, which I think are the main things that anybody would look at.
Sure, makes sense. Now, you've talked a little bit about this, but if you wouldn't mind digging a little deeper, how exactly are you using DBSync within the organization? I know in many ways you're kind of a one-woman shop, but how are you using it? And what would you say your greatest reward or value has been using DBSync integration?
So I use it. I am the only one that uses it. And I use it for the integration only. So I basically only use it going from Salesforce to QuickBooks, not the other way, which I know is an available option. And a large part of our revenue is user revenue. So our membership revenue gets filled out in November, and payments are made from December through, March, April, summer still trickling in.
Gotcha.
And so we used to manually enter every payment that came in into QuickBooks, on top of marking them paid in the CRM. Now with DBSync, we have the functionality where we mark the members paid, or the invoice in the system is paid, and it automatically, I have it set daily, so it automatically will sync right into QuickBooks. We mapped accounts in the beginning as part of the integration process, and it'll automatically sync into QuickBooks. So it really does save me personally a ton of time. I don't think anybody else in my company really would know much about it because I'm the one that's
You're the one, doing the effort.
For sure, the one getting the benefit of it.
And I know this is a hard question, but if you could you turn that time save or whatever other elements you might be getting that you consider a reward into kind of a ballpark figure? I know that's challenging, but what if you could?
I mean,
What's your, or how would you best describe your ROI? Maybe that's easier.
It's time. It's time. It's 100% time. If I had to break it down, it would be weeks of my personal time at a director of finance salary.
Yeah.
So, you know, my time can be used for much more important things.
Sure.
You know, data entry, not that I'm above anything. I've done it all, but data entry being a big part of, you know, your job, especially during the time of year where you're preparing for year-end stuff. An audit is coming soon. There's a lot going on. So to spend the time daily or weekly, or God forbid you let it go for 2 weeks and you have 2 weeks worth of payments to enter, it's truly it's a lot. So I would say, I mean, the press of a button, syncing it into QuickBooks has saved me weeks of time.
Well, I feel like that's, I don't know that we
To me,
call that 100, but we'll take it. I mean, that's certainly the goal is certainly for doing that.
And I think that most organizations, or at least most people in my position in organizations, would agree that that is more valuable than any cost, and the cost was not even anything unreasonable. So it's crazier because it really wasn't even very costly, but the time saved was well worth.
Wonderful.
Cost.
Time saving as well as cost effective. We can't ask for more than that.
No.
Now, sort of building on that, then obviously you might take that same advice, but if, say, I'm another organization, I'm looking for data integration, I were to come to you and say, what can you recommend about DBSync? In other words, what would you tell me to look for, or what value do you think I could find if I were to try DBSync with some of the same challenges you were facing?
I think that it depends on what the organization has going on. We have personally 520 members. So there were 520 payments that had to be entered at, you know, ultimately at the end of each year, or the beginning of the following year. And if you have 20 members or you don't have a structure like that, then obviously there's no need for, you know, you can do it manually and easily. Unfortunately for me, you know, or fortunately for the company, we were growing, but a lot of the dues process has to be done manually just by nature for us. And so to add on top of that, the end of it, where, you know, once you receive payment, you think you're done, and then it's like, no, you can't, you have to enter it. I would recommend it to anybody that is spending a lot of time with data entry on the QuickBooks side or on the Salesforce side, because I know that you guys go both ways, from QuickBooks to Salesforce, Salesforce to QuickBooks. So for sure, anybody that's spending a significant amount of their time doing data entry type stuff.
Certainly sage advice, something that I will continue to pass on when I'm out in my proposals as well, because I think really the issues that you've described are very common with our clients, and we've been seeing the same types of success. So it's wonderful to hear that from you as well. Now, I can certainly say I've enjoyed hearing all these accolades, but as you might remember, all organizations have room for improvement. And so what might you recommend to us, to DBSync, as far as maybe either our product or our overall customer experience?
Customer experience has been excellent. I am very honest to almost to a fault. So if there was ever an issue or ever a time that somebody was non-responsive to me, I would in a heartbeat bring it up. There never was. There has never been an issue. There's actually been a circumstance where our thinking had stopped. I hadn't realized it. You know, we're in a crazy world right now with COVID-19 going on, and you know, we're home, and so things are kind of moving from, you know, just transferring from using a regular computer to now you're on a laptop, and all these changes. And so within that, something had changed in our Salesforce. Somebody had run in our Salesforce, changed the setting. I was unaware that the syncing had stopped, and it luckily wasn't for an extreme period of time, but it had stopped. And one of your technical people reached out to me. So that's the level of service that I've gotten from you guys, to the point where I didn't even realize that the syncing had stopped. Somebody from DBSync reached out to me and said, hey, I just want to call, see how things are going. We noticed you hadn't synced anything in a while. And I was like, oh, great, that's odd. And then while on that call, scheduled a call, just decided to catch up. And while on that call, it came through that, it actually hadn't been syncing for a while. So they fixed it, fairly, or they explained to us how to fix it fairly within 2 days. It was all fixed. I think this was like a call on a Thursday or a Friday, and by Monday it was working.
I'm so glad to hear
on that end. Yeah, you guys were on it. I cannot say anything bad on that end. Any recommendations or anything that would make my life easier? The only thing I can say is, so when things, and I don't know, only people maybe that have the system or use the system would understand this or are familiar with the way the dues process works, but when things sync from DBSync into QuickBooks, they sync on the date that they sync, right? So they'll show up in if they sync today, it'll show up in QuickBooks as a payment on April 22nd. Sometimes that payment actually came in on March 30th, and we just didn't open the little sync box or whatever the case may be. There was an error and it hadn't synced. So if there was a way to make sure that it synced on the date that we put into Salesforce, the payment was made versus just the date that it syncs, that would help, because it's not such an issue when it happens in the same month. But when you have a payment that was made on March 30th, syncing into QuickBooks on April 22nd, then, I'm reconciling March 30th bank statement, and that's where the issue occurs. It's a timing thing, and I have to go in and manually fix it. Luckily, we have it set to sync every day. So that should not be an issue. That's the purpose of it. But there have been times where, you kind of restart your computer, you shut everything down for the weekend, and then you turn it back on, and there's like a little box within QuickBooks that has to be open for the syncing, even though it's automatic, the box has to be open. And so if I forget to open that box for 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is, it'll start syncing automatically once I open the box. But unfortunately, now it's 3 days later, and if that 3 days happens to fall between month end, which my luck was, it always would, it would be like, the 1st or the 30th, the payment was made, then things are marked in the wrong month. So that's partially a recommendation for DBSync, but also something that I need to just be conscious of, or conscientious of, making sure that I sync every day, or make sure that that box is open to sync every day.
Yeah, I'm sure you and everyone else, it's a good reminder. I'll certainly take the feedback to our team. Of course, we're always looking for any ideas to improve, especially to meet our customers' most recent and most important needs. I think that might do it for us today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us. We really appreciate your business. We really look forward to, as I've said, many, many more years with the Loan Synchronizations and Trading Association. And I also want to thank everyone else again for joining us. We appreciate you as well for taking the time to do a little research and consider us as a data integration option. We look forward to working with you in the future and helping you to get your apps talking. Thanks again. Goodbye. Oh.